Class 55 Deltic is an icon of the diesel locomotive era, and Bachmann have for many years delivered the definitive O gauge models of this much loved class. Let's find out why. Hi, welcome to today's review. This review is going to be a little bit different than my other reviews, as we're going to take a look at three representative versions of the Class 55 from Bachmann over the last 10 years. And we're going to take a look at them in more detail, their differences, their similarities. We'll do a combined running session of all three, and then we'll finish up with the scoring and an overall summary, as I do for all of my reviews. In all, 22 Deltics were built between 1961 and 1962. They've got a maximum speed of 100 miles an hour. And one of the distinctive features of the Deltic locomotive is that it has two prime movers. And you'll hear this when you actually do the startup. You'll hear each of the motors starting up independently. So you'll see that later on in the running session. They were drawn from service between 1980 and 1982, and 6 have been preserved. So the first locomotive we're going to start with is locomotive number 55001, with the locomotive name of St. Paddy. And it's in the distinctive bluish red blue livery. When I think of the Deltic or the Class 55, this is one of the first locomotives that I actually think of, and it's the first that I actually owned. As I say, it comes in the distinctive bluish red blue livery. You can see the two sets of vents on the roof, indicative of the two actual prime movers that are in this locomotive. You've got the distinctive side windows there, and the distinctive sliding windows in the cab area, and the horns sitting around the front of the body. This one has the what's so-called domino head codes, and you'll see an alternative head code in the other locomotives which actually have the numeric head codes. This model comes with spring buffers, as do all of the Deltics, Class 55 Deltics from Bachmann. It's got front and rear lighting, and it also has cab lighting. So it is a well-featured locomotive, and I think it's fair to say it is a good-looking locomotive as well. It weighs in at 611 grams, which puts it on the heavy side of typical locomotives. And I think you'll see from the running session that it is a very good runner, very good at low speed, and on a very, very solid runner. And absolutely, I've never had a problem with a Bachmann Class 55 locomotive in terms of any irregularities on my track or anything like that. These really are very smooth and reliable running locomotives, and with a good strong pulling power, which is pretty representative of what the real life locomotive has as well. Next up, we've got locomotive 55007, or the Pinza, also numbered D9007. This is under the old numbering scheme. And I have to say that this locomotive is probably my favourite of all of the Class 55 Deltics. Comes in the very distinctive two-tone green livery, and with the kind of the white effect around the cab areas and the grey roof. So a very distinctive livery, I think a very attractive livery. The rest of the features of the locomotive are very absolutely similar and nearly identical to the predecessor, the St. Paddy, which we just looked at. And all of the features are the same. So it comes with, from a model perspective, it comes with the spring buffers, the cab lighting, directional lighting, and the distinctive startup sounds. When you start up the locomotive, you'll hear each of the prime movers starting up independently, and absolutely identical running characteristics. So a very very good looking locomotive, certainly my favourite, I think, of all the Deltics, and a very good running locomotive as well. Unfortunately, the Pinza, as with the St. Paddy, no longer exists. These locomotives were used for spares originally and then eventually scrapped, so they weren't lucky enough to survive as preserved locomotives. But we have them here in their model form, and I think Bachmann's representation of both the Pinza and the St. Paddy are very worthy representations, very impressive, and very nice models. Finally, one locomotive that is actually preserved, and this is locomotive 55019, or the Royal Highland Fusillier. And this one actually is a preserved locomotive. The model from Bachmann actually comes as a weathered version, so factory weathered, There's additional weathering on this particular locomotive, added particularly to the top of the locomotive. Most of the weathering actually is around the lower ends of the locomotive. So this one has the weathering added to the top, as you can see, and it also has DCC Sound added to it. It's coming in the domino head codes, similar to the same Paddy, and underneath is effectively the same livery, and effectively is the same locomotive in terms of all of its characteristics and features. So again, featuring all the same features from a lighting perspective and an operational perspective. So as I say, this one is preserved in pristine livery, not preserved in this form, obviously. Again, shares all of the same sorts of characteristics. I got this one particularly because of the weathering effect. I think it's kind of appropriate to have a weathered Deltic in your layout, and hence I went for this one. But as I say, it shares all the same characteristics as its stablemates, and this one, as I said, is preserved. So let's just do a quick summary of all the features of the Class 55 Deltic and the locomotives we've looked at. So what we've reviewed here today is the 32525DS, which is the Pinza with the 4-digit head code and the two-tone green livery, and the DS signalling it comes with factory installed digital sound. We also looked at the 32525W, and this was the Royal Highland Fusillier, the factory weathered version. Doesn't come with DCC Sound out of the box, but that has been installed in the model that you'll see in the running session. And then the 32530DS, the very distinctive St. Paddy, probably one of the best known of all of the Class 55 Deltics, and it again coming with a domino head code. The livery options are the BR Blue and the BR two-tone green livery, and optional fitted DCC Sound, and this really stands to today. So all of the Class 55s from Bachmann share these characteristics. Again, they all have directional and cab lighting, and the extra features, the spring buffers, the pre-fitted driver, they all come with the detailing kit. And in the case of the 32525W, they have factory-based weathering, and you will see that on some of the more current models of the Class 55 as well. The unboxed weight for all of them, 611 grams with DCC installed, which does put them on the heavier side. And the retail selling price for these particular locomotives, for including the sound, would be in the 200 to 265 range, and you'll pretty well see that reflective of the new locomotives. So overall, a pretty impressive specification, and anybody I think purchasing these will be well pleased with the capabilities. Okay, I think the time has come to go to our running session, so I've done enough talking for now. I'm going to let these three locomotives do the talking. In the running session, we'll go from a cold start, so you'll hear the distinctive startup of the Class 55 with the two prime movers starting independently, which is prototypical. And we'll bring all three locomotives through their paces, so we'll interchange between the three of them as we go through the running session. So hope you find this useful. We'll have some representative rolling stock from Bachmann, both the blue and grey livery coaches, Mark 1s, and we'll also have some of the maroon Mark 1 coaches as well. All of them are from Bachmann appropriately, I think, with this locomotive. So hope you enjoy the running session, and after that we'll take a look at the scoring and we'll do a final summary. Okay, talk to you in a few minutes. finally, let's take a look at my usual scorecard for the Class 55 from Bachmann. So the performance on all of them is identical, and it is a strong performance score of 4.5 stars. I do have some differences in terms of the appearance, so I would rate the blue appearance in the 4-star category and the two-tone green in 4.5 stars. So a slightly different score there depending on which livery. Probably based on my preference. I'd be interested to hear what your preference is, so please add that in the comments. But again, a very strong score in terms of appearance, very good detail on the body of these locomotives. You've got the metallic effect on the outside of the windows, the very good glazing, and good detail overall, hence giving this score. The sound for the factory fitted DCC Sound, I'm giving it a 4.5 star. Again, there's always a little bit of room for improvement off the default sound that you get from any vendor, but a 4.5 star, very strong score here. Extra features, 3.5 stars, and with an additional 0.5 star there for the weathered version of the locomotive, if that's what you choose to go with. Packaging is all very good, and documentation. And overall, I'm giving this a 4.5 star and a highly recommended rating. I think if you're modelling this era of diesel locomotives, I think a Class 55 Deltic and one of these from Bachmann is probably something you want to have in your layout. So excellent performance overall, well featured, very much has been up to now the definitive version of this particular locomotive class. There is some competition coming down the line, so you'll see from Rails they are now going to be offering an Acura scale version of the Class 55 in the different livery versions with both sound and no sound options. Will be interesting to see how that shapes up. Looks like it will probably give the Bachmann version a run for its money going forward, but for now, until that's fully launched, I truly can say that the Bachmann Class 55, it is the definitive model version of the Class 55 Deltic, and is a very worthwhile model and well worth owning. So I hope you enjoyed this review today. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. I enjoy this particular locomotive. It is one of my favourites. Hence I have 3 of them, and hopefully this has given you a flavour for the different variety even within the Class 55. It's hard to believe only 22 were actually ever manufactured, because they certainly have a reputation and a presence, I think, with modelers, which goes beyond the 22 that were made, and relatively short life of just under 20 years that they had on our railroads. But certainly they live on our layouts going forward, and will continue to do so. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you on another video soon. And in the meantime, happy modelling.